6th chapter of the 11th canto. The 6th chapter is entitled The Yadu Dynasty Retains to Prabhas Kshetra. So we discussed it till, everybody knows which verse number? 32. Okay. So in this 6th chapter, the 6th chapter began with the demigods headed by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, along with their associates. They came from the heavenly planets, the higher abodes, and they came with a desire to take darshan of Krishna. And when they came, they brought a beautiful garland from the gardens of heavenly planets, and they offered that garland, and they started glorifying the Lord with words which contained charming ideas and charming words. With beautiful prayers filled with charming ideas and charming, pleasing words, they glorified the Lord. And they offered beautiful prayers. Some 13 or 14 verses contain the prayers of the demigods to Lord Krishna. We discussed those prayers in detail, how initially they became astonished by seeing the form of the Lord. They offered Dandavad, and then they talked about they spoke some verses in humor, saying that the garland which we brought, by seeing that garland, Lakshmi Devi might become jealous, saying that, oh, who is this other co-wife who is also residing in the chest of my Supreme Lord? But we hope, we have faith that you will not actually reject our garland, and you will be more merciful to us, and you will not actually you will not pay attention to Lakshmi Devi. And then they offered beautiful prayers regarding how Krishna is the supreme controller and he is the source of Mahavishnu, and they also differentiated between Krishna and the yogis. Then after glorifying Lord Krishna in these prayers, then Brahma and other demigods, they told Krishna that the purpose for which you appeared in this world, that has been accomplished. Now if you so desire, you may return to your abode in the spiritual world. Then when Lord Brahma spoke those verses, so then Lord Krishna starts speaking. We saw few of the verses. We discussed till 33, na? Yeah, we discussed till the, I think, okay, yeah. So then Krishna told Brahma that I have executed everything that was required on your behalf, but the Yadava dynasty in which I have appeared, that Yadava dynasty is causing a great burden. So therefore I have stopped the Yadava dynasty, just like a shore actually stops the ocean. And if I leave this planet Earth without withdrawing the Yadava dynasty from the planet Earth, the whole world will be destroyed by the deluge of their ultimate unlimited expansion. So then Lord Krishna said that very soon Yadav dynasty will be destroyed by the curse of the Brahmanas. Then after that I will also disappear from this world, and then on my way to the spiritual world I will pay a short visit to your abode. So in this way Lord Krishna says. Then after that Shukdev Goswami starts speaking. We had we completed till the 31st verse, na? 31st we have completed, yeah. We'll start from the 32nd verse. Shri Shuka Uvacha Ityukto Lokanatena Swayambhu Pranipatyatam Sahadeva Ganairdeva Swadama Samapadyata. Read the translation.
Shri Sukadeva Goswami said, thus addressed by the Lord of the universe, the self-born Brahma fell down in obeisances at the lotus feet of the Lord. Surrounded by all the demigods, the great Brahma then returned to his personal abode.
So then all the demigods, they returned to the personal abode. So at that time, Krishna started seeing many evil omens. It is described that Maho Utpatan, serious disturbances. So Lord Krishna started seeing all these evil omens, and then he spoke to all the senior leaders of the Yadu dynasty. So then from the 34 to 38th verse, in these 5 verses, Lord Krishna instructs the leaders of the Yadu dynasty on seeing this great terrible evil omens. 34th verse will recite. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yete Vaisu Mahotpata Vyuttishtantiha Sarvataha Shapaschana Kulasyasid Brahmanebhyo Duratyayaha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, our dynasty has been cursed by the Brahmana. Such a curse is impossible to counteract, and thus great disturbances are separating everywhere around us. Are appearing everywhere around us.
So, actually, if you see, there is something called as Nimitta Shastra. Nimitta Shastra means that scripture which talks about the good and bad omens. So many times people think that this kind of good and bad omens, there are simply some superstition. But there is actually science behind it. In one sense, actually, if you understand why these good and bad omens are there, is that the Krishna and the demigods who actually award the different reactions to people, they are so gentlemanly that before a person gets a particular bad reaction, they give indication through this through these omens. So there is we can see the attitude or the psychology, we can see the attitude of these people, so that they are trying to caution that very soon you are going to get some bad reaction, so be prepared for that. And even when they are going to get some good reaction also, they give some good signs indicating in the future you are going to get some good reaction. So basically, when there is usually a conditioned soul, he gets carried away by some sudden happiness, or he gets carried away by some sudden distress. He gets elated, or he becomes morose. So just so that the conditioned soul he remains, he doesn't get carried away by these emotions, so that he can actually focus, he can prepare for those whether good or bad events. So these indications are given. So this shows actually the gentlemanly nature of the demigods and the Supreme Lord. And we see even when Krishna was studying in the school of Sandipani Muni, Krishna learnt different arts. One of the things which he learned from Sandipani Muni is Nimitta Shastra, the science of good and bad omens. And even Arjuna was also learned in this science. Like in the first chapter of the Gita, when Arjuna says, Nacha shaknom avastatum brahmati vacha me manaha nimittani cha pashyami viparitani keshava. So that my hairs are standing on end, my mouth is actually drying up. Nacha shaknom avastatum brahmati vacha me manaha. And all these different signs indicate something evil is going to happen. So in that way, even Arjuna was also learned in that science. And even it is described that in the Mahabharata, Vyasdev mentions that he actually predicts the battle of Kurukshetra. In the Vyasdev, he tells in a section in the Mahabharata that usually, like in a month, there are two pakshas. One paksha is 15 days, another paksha is 15 days. But sometimes the paksha actually reduces to 14 days. But some in very, very rare occasion, sometimes one paksha reduces to 13 days. And that happened before the battle of Kurukshetra. So Vyasadeva mentions in Mahabharata, I have seen 14 days in a paksha, and I have seen 15 days in a paksha, and you even seen that one paksha lasting for 16 days. But never before have I seen an Amavasya falling on the 13th day. And that too was during the same month when there were eclipses of both the sun and the moon falling during the missing tithis. And by this, Vyasadeva mentions, this indicates that there is going to be a great amount of destruction because of this paksha falling on only 13 days, and the same month the two eclipses are coming. By that he is thinking that it is an indication of great destruction. And the same thing was also a similar observation was also made by Krishna before the fratricidal war which happened between the Yadus. He also observed a similar woman, although the details are not mentioned. Just a word uses Su Maha Utpata, very great disturbances. He also observed similar bad omens, and so by seeing that, so Krishna is addressing these the family members of Yadu dynasty. So in that sense, this is actually great science, the science of good and bad omens. So then Krishna says, Na vastavyam ihasmabir Jiji Vishubiraryaka Prabhasam sumahat punyam Yasyamo adyaiva machiram.
My dear respected elders, we must not remain any longer in this place. If we wish to keep our lives intact, let us go this very day to the most auspicious place, Prabhajan. We have no time to delay.
So Krishna is saying that our dynasty has been cursed by the Brahmanas, and this curse is very difficult to overcome. So therefore the disturbances are appearing everywhere. And in these 5 verses, essentially what he says is that we should not remain in Dwaraka any longer. We should go to Prabhasa Kshetra, and we should go there and perform pious activities there. We should give charity to the Brahmanas. We should perform pious activities in order to counteract this bad effects of this curse by the Brahmanas. And then he tells the glories of Prabhasa Kshetra in 2-3 verses in order to inspire them to go to Prabhasa Kshetra. So here, this has a long purport. So here he is mentioning that let us not delay even a single moment. Let us go immediately to Prabhas Kshetra, and we have no time to delay. Adyaiva ma chiram, without any delay. So one thing we see that sit here. Then. So one thing we see that whenever in the Bhagavatam different purports come, whenever there is some offense has been committed, usually it is mentioned that one should immediately atone for it. In the 5th canto, there is a Prabhupada writes in a purport that Raghugan Maharaj offended Jadabharat, but as soon as he realized his offense, immediately he fell down from the palanquin. He came down from the palanquin and immediately offered obeisance to Jadabharat, and then he atoned for that offense. So because he immediately atoned for that offense, so he didn't get the reaction. So Krishna is also mentioning that let us not delay even a single moment. So here Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explained, in this purport it is explained that the Acharyas explained 2 reasons for Krishna telling the Yadus to go out of the Dwaraka. In the first two paragraphs he mentions two reasons. So the first reason is that when Krishna appeared along with the different members of Yadu dynasty, there were different some of the associates of Krishna were Nitya Siddha associates from the spiritual world, and some were sadhana siddhas, in the sense like when a devotee becomes he becomes pure, when he becomes advanced, before the devotee goes back to the spiritual world, he is sent to a particular planet within the material universe where Krishna performs pastimes for further training before sending the devotee back to the spiritual world. So some of the associates of Krishna were actually like those pure devotees. In order to become more perfect in the devotional service, they appeared in Dwaraka. And some of them were like demigods from the heavenly planets. They were also advanced devotees. They actually appeared in the Dwaraka. So when Krishna is returning, now the Nitya Siddha associates will go back to the spiritual world. But these demigods who appeared from the heavenly planets, they have to again go back to the heavenly planets in order to resume their duties. So Krishna felt that I have to send all these demigods back to their abodes in the heavenly planets, because only after the tenure gets over, then they can go to the spiritual world. But if they leave their body in Dwaraka, so then because Dwaraka is my eternal abode, if they leave their body in Dwaraka, after leaving their body in Dwaraka, they cannot go to the heavenly planets. So they have to leave their body outside Dwaraka. So for that reason, Krishna actually is taking these devotees outside Dwaraka. In fact, one place, the 10th canto in the Brahma Vimohan Leela, Vishwanath Chakravarti explains in a purport. He quotes a Vedanta Sutra and he says, Yavad adhikaram avistitir adhikarikanam. That means authorities should fulfill the duties of their posts as long as they are assigned. So when Brahmaji realized the mistake of how he stole the calves and the cowherd boys, he wanted to actually he came down immediately and he offered a series of beautiful prayers, the 40 prayers in the 10th canto. So then towards the end of the prayer, Brahmaji, he just wanted to take birth as a blade of grass in Vrindavan or in the outskirts of Vrindavan, so that he can be trampled by the residents of Vrindavan. So when he was offering that prayer, but Krishna was not responding anything. So Vishwanath Chakravarti explains why Krishna did not respond. Because Krishna wanted Brahmaji to continue in his tenure and not suddenly take a retirement and come to Vrindavan. So that is why Krishna remained silent. So Brahmaji, he understood by Krishna's silence, he could understand, oh, Krishna is wanting me to go back to Satyaloka and continue my tenure. So in that connection, Vishwanath Chakravarti quotes this verse, authorities should fulfill the duties of their posts as long as they are assigned. So thus it is understood that after fulfilling his responsibility in the post of Brahma, then Brahma would attain his desired goal of residence in Vrindavan. So similarly, Krishna wanted the demigods to actually complete their tenure. So therefore, Krishna is taking the demigods away out of Dwaraka. Because if they leave their body in Dwaraka, then they have to go back to the spiritual world. So that is the first reason which is explained. The second reason why Krishna took the Yadavas outside of Dwaraka is that because Dwaraka is supremely auspicious. And even an imitation of inauspiciousness cannot happen in Dwaraka. Such as the fratricidal war between the family members, that cannot happen in Dwaraka. So therefore, Krishna's pastime of removing the Yadu dynasty is ultimately auspicious, but since it outwardly appeared inauspicious, so Krishna did not want this pastime. It's ultimately auspicious, but he did not want this pastime which outwardly appears inauspicious to happen in Dwaraka. So therefore Krishna took the Yadavas outside Dwaraka, and he is taking to Prabhashetra. And he will give the reasons, he will tell about the glories of Prabhashetra in next few verses. And the purport, Hridayananda Maharaj also quotes Madhvacharya, and he gives a description of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur gives a description of Prabhashetra, where Prabhasa is actually there. There is a railway station called Veraval railway station, and then he mentions that even we can see, like I think it's 6-7 years back we had gone, there's a place where the hunter Jara shot arrow at Krishna. That place is there, and the place where Krishna spoke Uddhav Gita, that's also there. So all those places are there. So when in the Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnay, Madhvacharya has given, he has mentioned 3 reasons for this Maushal Leela pastime. So Maushal Leela is the pastime of the disappearance of the Yadu dynasty and disappearance of Lord Krishna. But Madhvacharya has explained 3 reasons why Krishna performed this pastime in this manner. How he arranged for the fratricidal war, and how the way Krishna left this world as if like he was killed by hunter Jara, and then left behind some mortal body, and then left from this world. So the first reason he explains is that Krishna, he performed this pastime in this manner in order to bewilder the demons. In order to bewilder the demons, and so that the Kali Yuga can begin. Because we discussed that at the 11th canto, 30th chapter, Vishwanath Chakravarti gives a long purport about this Maushal Leela. We will discuss that more, but I am just telling in briefly now. The first reason is that in order to bewilder the demons so that Kali Yuga can begin. And second reason is that in order to maintain the curse of the Brahmanas. Because the Brahmanas had cursed that Yadu dynasty will be actually annihilated by this. If you know the story, that once the Yadu Kumaras, they went to which place? Prabhas only, or they went to the place where the group of sages were there, and they were in a frivolous manner. They started asking questions to the sages. One of the Yadu Kumaras, Samba, was dressed like a pregnant woman. The other Yadu Kumaras, they asked the sages, "Can you please tell us that whom is this lady? Will she give birth to a male child or a female child?" The sages could understand they are actually trying to make a mockery out of us, and they said, because you are frivolous in nature, you are actually not respectful to us. She will give birth to actually a iron club, and that will be the cause of the destruction of your whole dynasty. And then as soon as they cursed that, they came to their senses, and then they immediately begged forgiveness. But then Samba, when they removed the dress, immediately iron club came out, and then they brought that iron club to actually Dwaraka, and they reported that to actually Ugrasen. So Ugrasen Maharaj, he immediately made that iron. He made it into a powder, and most of the iron club became a powder, and there's a small piece of iron club remained. And they went and they threw that powder and the small piece of iron club into the ocean. So thinking that, oh, let us actually somehow avoid this curse. This is going to be the cause of destruction of a dynasty. So let us actually throw this into the ocean. They made it into powder and then threw it in the ocean. But then, of course, the story goes that the powdered iron clouds that was actually driven away by the ocean waves, and from that grew into some group of plants or canes, and from that some intoxicant was actually prepared. Later, when all these Yadu dynasty people, when they go to Prabhashetra, and they would drink intoxicant made out of those plants, which actually grew from the powdered iron. And in that intoxication, they actually killed each other. And the one piece of iron which remained, that would be swallowed by a fish, and that fish was actually caught by a fisherman, and the fisherman, when he caught the fish, and then when he cut open that fish, and then he saw this iron club, and he thought it is useless, and he gave it to some hunter Jara, and that hunter Jara made that iron club into in the form of an arrow, and with that arrow he actually shot Krishna, and then Krishna apparently left behind the body and then went back to the spiritual world. So like that the story goes. So the second reason is that Krishna wanted to ensure that the word of his own devotees and the Brahmanas be maintained. The second reason given by Madhvacharya. And the third reason is very interesting. The third reason is in order to show mercy to Bhrigu Muni. Because Bhrigu Muni, you know that story that Bhrigu Muni, the sages at the bank of Saraswati, they wanted to find out who is the supreme among the three personalities, Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. And they appointed Bhrigu Muni to test who is the supreme among the three. And Bhrigu Muni went to Brahma, he offended him mentally, but Brahmaji became angry, but somehow he controlled his anger, and then he offended Lord Shiva with sharp words. Lord Shiva became angry, he was about to kill Bhrigu Muni, and then he was pacified by Saraswati. And then when he came to Lord Vishnu, he offended by kicking at Lord Vishnu. So in one sense, Bhrigu Muni, although he committed the highest offense, the offenses committed with body, mind and words. Out of that, the highest offenses committed with the body. That is the highest offense. So, but still, Bhrigu Muni's act of kicking at the body of Lord Vishnu was not considered as an offense. Because the reason was that Bhrigu Muni simply wanted to test who is the best among the three personalities. So the essence of the offense is not the activity but the attitude with which a person performs an activity. The attitude of trying to bring a person down, that actually determines the offense. So Bhrigu Muni, he did not have a hatred towards Vishnu. He simply wanted to know who is the supreme among the three personalities. So therefore his act of kicking at Vishnu was not, in one sense, not considered an offense. Just like we say that devotional service is not an activity which incidentally pleases Krishna, but it's an activity which is intended to please Krishna. So similarly, offense is not an activity which incidentally displeases Krishna or his devotees, but that which is intended to hurt a person, which is intended to bring a person down. That is the definition of an offense. So although Bhrigu Muni's act was not considered as an offense, but Bhrigu Muni, by seeing the response of Vishnu, he could understand he is the supreme personality of God. Because the way Lord Vishnu responded, in that connection Prabhupada writes that famous statement. You know that famous statement? That
greatness of a person. Justified by tolerating the provoking.
The greatness of a person has to be estimated by his ability to tolerate provoking situations. Prabhupada writes this statement in the Krishna book in this pastime. So when Bhrigu Muni understood that, but he, after understanding the supreme position of Vishnu, he became remorseful. Although from the point of view of the Lord, he didn't consider it as an offense because he didn't have that offensive attitude. But from the point of view of Bhrigu Muni, from the point of view of a devotee, he doesn't say that, oh, ultimately I had the right attitude. But he felt very remorseful that I actually kicked at the body of Lord Vishnu. So in order to actually atone for that offense which he felt as an offense, he actually took birth as a hunter Jara. He took birth in a low family. So, but even though, so Bhrigu Muni became a great devotee of the Lord, but when the nature of the Lord is that even if a great devotee, if he takes birth in a low family, the Lord cannot tolerate that. Lord cannot tolerate the downfall of a devotee. The Lord wants the devotee to be reinstated in his original position. He wants the devotee, he wants to deliver the devotee. So Bhrigu Muni, he in order to atone for that act, he took birth as Jara. But Lord Krishna, he couldn't tolerate that. He wanted to send Bhrigu Muni to spiritual world. So therefore, Lord Krishna arranged for him to leave from this world by the act of Jara actually shooting at him. So Jara, he was looking for a deer and he saw Lord Krishna lying down. By seeing that beautiful lotus feet, pinkish lotus feet of the Lord, he thought it to be a deer and then he shot an arrow. And then when he came close, he thought that he realized that I have shot an arrow at the Supreme Personality of God. So Lord Krishna arranged for this act so that in order to make hunter Jara very remorseful, and in that remorse he will leave his body and so that he can send him back to the spiritual world. So that is the actually Krishna wanted to make him remorseful so that he can gain release from his degraded birth and go back to Vaikuntha Loka. So these are the three reasons which Madhvacharya gives for this Maushal Leela. And of course he explains that the personality of Godhead from his very appearance on the earth did not manifest any of the material qualities of ordinary human beings, and the Lord did not appear from the womb of his mother, rather by his inconceivable power he descended into the maternity room. So this is this Maushal Leela. It should be understood that it is an illusory pastime. It is in order to please his devotee Bhrigu, in order to confuse the demons, and in order to maintain the curse of the Brahmanas, Krishna performed this Maushal Leela. And then Madhvacharya also explains that there is a place called as Bhrigu Tirtha in Prabhas Kshetra, which is manifested by Parashuram. So we can see this places there. So then from the 36th to 38th verse, in 3 verses, Krishna speaks about the glories of Prabhas Kshetra, and also he tells that what we should do when we go to Prabhas Kshetra. Yatra snatva daksha shapat grihito yaksha manodurat vimukta kilbishat sadyo veje bhuya kalodayam.
Once the moon was afflicted with consumption because of the curse of Daksha, but just by taking bath in Prabhas Kshetra, the moon was immediately freed from his sinful reactions and again resumed the waxing of his faces.
So Prajapati Daksha, he had given his daughters in marriage to moon god. But the moon god was showing favor only to Rohini constellation and ignored the other daughters. So at that time Daksha became angry with the moon god and cursed the moon god to suffer from consumption, which weighs the body away. So because of that, moon god did not bear any children. So that later moon god pacified Prajapati Daksha and regained the portions of light he had lost during his disease. This mentioned in the 6th canto, 6th chapter in that. And Shukadeva Goswami gives a description of the dynasty of Daksha Prajapati through his daughters. So it is mentioned that moon god, by taking bath in Prabhas Kshetra, he was freed from the sinful reactions and he resumed the waxing of his faces. And then you can read the translation of the next verse, 37-38.
By bathing at Prabhashetra, by offering sacrifice there to placate the forefathers and demigods, by feeding the worshipable Brahmanas with various delicious foodstuffs, and by bestowing opulent gifts upon them as the most suitable candidates for charity, we will certainly cross over these terrible dangers through such acts of charity, just as one can cross over a great ocean in a suitable boat.
So here Krishna is mentioning that let us go to Prabhas Kshetra and let us offer tarpan to Pitrus, Devatas by feeding the worshipable Brahmanas, etc. And by that we will be definitely able to cross over these terrible dangers. So we can see this principle that because they offended the Brahmanas, the atonement is again please the Brahmanas. Just like Mahaprabhu said, if you had blasphemed a Vaishnava, with the same mouth you should actually glorify the Vaishnava. Jiva Goswami gives the example that suppose if a person has committed an Vaishnava aparadh, that it is not that if you do some extra deity worship, that aparadh will be gone. No, you have to please that same Vaishnava. If there is a thorn in the foot, he says that you should not look for the thorn in the shoulder. You have to look for the thorn in the foot only. So similarly, because they offended the Brahmanas, you go and please the Brahmanas. And Prabhupada in the third canto, when Uddhav was remembering the same incident, and when he was explaining the same incident to Vidura, he talks about the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty. So there Prabhupada writes the purport. He says that there are different divisions of devotees, Nitya Siddhas and Sadhana Siddhas. And in Sadhana Siddhas there are two types, the pure devotees and mixed devotees. And then he says, in the Sadhana Siddhas, those who are mixed devotees, they are sometimes enthusiastic about fruitive activities and are habituated to philosophical speculation. And the pure devotees are free from all these mixtures and are completely absorbed in the service of the Lord, regardless of how and where they are situated. And he mentions a beautiful point, that pure devotees of the Lord, they are not enthusiastic to put aside their service in order to go to the holy place of pilgrimage. Means like if there is a service, they would not just leave that service just to go for a yatra. Like sometimes like the mood of going yatra is just to take a break or something, not in the mood of service. So Prabhupada writes, and he quotes even Narottam Das Thakur's bhajan, to visit the holy place of pilgrimage is another bewilderment of the mind, because devotional service to the Lord at any place is the last word in spiritual perfection. So even visiting holy places can also be, in one sense, it can be Maya, in the sense if you are not in the proper mood. As in the Chaitanya Charitamrita explained that Kaviraj Goswami gives a list of devotees, Prabhupada gives a list of devotees who have never visited Vrindavan, like Gadadhar Pandit, who is Srimati Radharani herself. Some of these devotees, they never visited Vrindavan, but they were always absorbed in that service. So,
Prabhupada said that I would have not left Vrindavan, you would have not got Vrindavan.
So now Shukdev Goswami starts speaking. So now this is the starting of the Uddhav Gita. So basically, if we see the similarity between Bhagavad Gita and Uddhav Gita is that both the Bhagavad Gita and Uddhav Gita both actually started in when there was a crisis. In the case of Arjuna, he wanted to avoid a fratricidal war. In the case of Uddhav Gita, Uddhava was actually knowing that a fratricidal war is going to happen and the Yadu dynasty is going to be destroyed, and which cannot be stopped. And Uddhava, so at that time he becomes like bewildered, all the Yadu dynasty is going to be destroyed and Krishna is also going to be disappear from this world. So at this time actually Uddhava is approaching Krishna. In that sense, like both of them start at a time of crisis. Can read the translation, 39th verse.
Shukdev Goswami said, O favorite son of Kurus, thus advised by the personality of Godhead, the Yadavas made up their minds to go to that holy place, Prabhash Kshetra, and thus yoked their horses to their chariots.
So next verse. Tannirikshyodhavo rajan Shrutva bhagavatoditam दृष्ट्वारिष्टानि घोराणि नित्यं कृष्णम् अनुव्रतः विविक्त उपसंगम्य जगताम् ईश्वरेश्वरम् प्रणम्य शिरसा पादौ प्राञ्जलिस्तम् अभाषत.
My dear King, Uddhava was a constantly faithful follower of Lord Krishna. Upon seeing the imminent departure of the Yadavas, hearing from them of the Lord's instruction and taking note of the fearful omens, he approached the personality of Godhead in a private place. He bowed down with his head at the lotus feet of the Supreme Controller of the universe and with the folded hand addressed him as follows.
So, what I'll do is, I was thinking, so the first half an hour we'll have the test 10:30 to 11, and because I want to complete in each class some substantial portion. Till 12:45 we'll have the class, and last 15 minutes we can have question answer, different comments, so that we otherwise the course goes on for a indefinite time. So that because we want to start other courses after Uddhav Gita. So because I will highlight. So in this 1.5 hour I will first we'll go through so that substantial amount is covered, and then last 15 minutes we'll have the questions and comments. So just like if you see in Bhagavad Gita, initially like Arjuna observes the army, and then he actually speaks, and then Krishna starts speaking in the second chapter onwards. So in Uddhav Gita also, Krishna actually starts speaking from the next chapter. So now seeing these bad omens, and like Uddhava is actually hearing this conversation between Krishna and the demigods. It's explained that Shrutva Bhagavatoditam. So Uddhava heard the conversation between Krishna and the Yadu dynasty and the demigods, and Drishtva Arishtani Gorani. Drishtva Arishtani Gorani means like he saw all these terrible bad omens. Arishtani Gorani, fearful evil omens. So then he approached Krishna. So now Uddhava will speak from the 42nd verse onwards till the end of this chapter, and then Krishna will start replying from the start speaking from the next chapter. So what is the nature of Krishna, Uddhava? Nityam Krishnam Anuvratah. He was a constant follower of Krishna. Anuvrata means he would follow Krishna as if performing like a vrata, as a determined vrata. Nityam Krishnam Anuvratah. Vivikta Upasangamya. Vivikta means in a private place he approached Krishna. Jagatam Ishwareshwaram. He offered obeisances. Pranamya Shirasa Padav. Pranjalis tam abhashata. With folded hands he spoke to Krishna. So here Jiva Goswami explains, actually there cannot be any disturbance in the Lord's abode. But the disturbances created which appeared in the Lord's abode, it was only created by the Lord. It was an external show created by the Lord to facilitate his pastimes. Then he explains that Lord Krishna is not a mundane historical figure, and his activities cannot be confined within the tiny limits of material logic. And Lord Krishna's pastimes are an exhibition of his achintya shakti, or inconceivable potency, which functions according to higher spiritual laws unknown to the blind conditioned souls and their petty material logic. So if we see that of course this concept comes again and again, that how Lord Krishna's pastimes are actually beyond petty material logic. In one article I was reading of Chaitanya Charanru, mentions that logic should be used as a minister and not as a master. Means like sometimes when people make logic as the God, and then they become actually frustrated. When they make logic as the ultimate worshipable God, and some scientists, they come to the conclusion, when they make reason or the logic as the ultimate worshipable God, they come to the conclusion, oh, ultimately everything is made of chemicals. So then one scientist, he comes to a conclusion that, so then the only philosophical question which we are supposed to ask is whether we should commit suicide today or tomorrow. Because life is just, everything is a combination of chemicals. So that means like there is no purpose to the life. It's just a meaningless existence. The only philosophical question we should ask like whether to commit suicide today or tomorrow. So that is the result of making logic as a master. But logic should be made as a minister and not as a master. So now Uddhava starts speaking. So if we see that so Uddhava at this time of crisis is actually taking shelter of Krishna, and Krishna starts speaking philosophy. So usually whenever there is some crisis in our life, that gives an impetus for a person to seek the deeper meaning of life, to become more philosophical in life. And many times, sometimes people want to understand philosophy more as an intellectual exercise. But Krishna explains in the Gita, idam jnanam upashritya, idam jnanam upashritya, mama sadharmya magata sargepi nopajayante pralayena vyatanti cha. He says that idam jnanam upashritya, many people, they took shelter of this knowledge and they attained perfection. This knowledge is not to be seen as an intellectual exercise, but it should be taken shelter of. So in this way Uddhava approaches, like in fact one of the meaning of Uddhav Gita, which is given by the Acharyas, is also a Hamsa Gita. Because in one of the Uddhav Gita, one of the section is that the instructions of Hamsa Avatar to the 4 Kumaras. I think 4 Kumaras or 4 Kumaras. So the Hamsa Avatar's instructions are, so therefore it's also called as Hamsa Gita. So Uddhava starts speaking. Shri Uddhava Uvacha Deva Devesha Yogesha Punya Shravana Kirtana Samhrityaitat Kulam Nunam Lokam Santyakshate Bhavan Viprashapam Samartopi Pratyahan Nayadishvaraha.
Sri Uddhava said, O my Lord, O Supreme God, among all the demigods, real piety is invoked simply by hearing and chanting your transcendental glories. My Lord, it appears that you will now withdraw your dynasty, and thus you yourself will finally give up your pastimes within this universe. You are the supreme controller and the master of all mystic power. But although you are fully capable of contracting the Brahmana's curse against your dynasty, you are not doing so, and your disappearance is imminent.
So here, although Krishna spoke to all the members of the Yadu dynasty that we should go to Prabhasa Kshetra, but Uddhava understood the thoughts of Krishna. So in that purport, the thoughts of Krishna were explained, the 3 reasons why Krishna wanted to perform this Mosha Leela which we described. But although he did not reveal those thoughts to the Yadu dynasty, but Uddhava could understand. So Uddhava is explaining this verse. So in this verse, Uddhava is addressing Krishna by 3 words: Deva Devesha, Yogesha, and Punya Shravana Kirtana. So by this addressing Krishna by these 3 words, he is actually mentioning the 3 purposes of the Lord to appear in this world. By addressing Deva Devesha, he is mentioning that you have accomplished what Brahma and others requested, because you are the Lord of the Devatas, so appeared in this world in order to actually carry out the request of the Brahma and the demigods. And then he says that Yogesha, but you did not come to this world just to fulfill their purpose, just to fulfill their request, but you also came to this world in order to give joy to your devotees by revealing your inconceivable variegated form, qualities and pastimes filled with rasa. So therefore you are the Lord of Yoga Maya. So when he is mentioning Yogesha means that you are the Lord of Yoga Maya. So you are not only appeared to fulfill the request of the demigods, but you actually appeared to give joy to your devotees by revealing your inconceivable form, qualities, pastimes, etc. And then he says that but you not only you appeared in this world to fulfill the request of the demigods and to give joy to your devotees, but you also appeared in this world in order to deliver all the future generations. Because when you appeared in this world, you performed such wonderful pastimes that anybody in the future, if he hears these pastimes, by that all people in the future generation will be delivered. So therefore he is addressing Krishna by the word Punya Shravana Kirtana. O Lord, whose glories by being sung or heard purify everyone. So in this way Uddhava is addressing Krishna. So here Uddhava is thinking that you have actually instructed the Yadavas to go to Prabhakshetra, to take bath there and to serve the Brahmanas in order to counteract the curse of the Brahmanas. But actually they are having direct darshan of you. How can going to holy place and taking bath be superior to having direct darshan of you? So this is the first question which Uddhava had. You are telling them to actually go there to perform piety, but they are performing the highest pious activity by taking direct darshan of you. And secondly, Uddhava, second thought which Uddhava is having is that actually therefore since you are telling them to go to Prabhakshetra to take bath there, that means you are having some other purpose. It is not that because they are performing the highest pious activity by taking darshan of you, but when you are telling them to go there, that means you must be having some other purpose. And the second thing which is having second thought which is having is that actually you yourself have the full power to counteract the curse of the Brahmanas, but you are not doing that. So that shows that you are preparing to leave from this world. That shows that you are actually you are arranging for the annihilation of the other dynasty and you are preparing to leave from this world. So Uddhava could understand these things from the Krishna's words, but the other Yadavas, they did not actually understand. They actually nonsense. They said yes, oh, let us go to Prabhashet, and they immediately went to Prabhashet. So in that sense, so that is the difference between Uddhava and the other Yadavas. So the other Yadavas, they were all faithful to Krishna, but they did not think deeply on why Krishna is saying this. We can take the lesson. Other Yadavas were faithful, but they were not thoughtful. But Uddhava is Nityam Krishna Manuvrata, but the constant follower of Krishna, but he was thinking deeply about why Krishna spoke this verse, and then he is coming to the conclusion. So Krishna must be preparing to leave from this world by hearing the same words. So this shows actually Uddhava is faithful and also thoughtful. So then Uddhava says, having understood that Krishna is going to leave from this universe, he speaks the next verse. Naham tavangri kamalam Kshanardam api Keshava Tyaktum samutsahenata Swadama nayamamapi.
O Lord Keshav, my dear master, I cannot tolerate giving up your lotus feet even for a fraction of a moment. I urge you to take me along with you to your own abode.
So Uddhava is saying that please take me to your abode. I cannot tolerate separation from you even for a moment. So if you see, actually, if you see the psychology of a devotee, although Krishna is there everywhere in this world, he is situated as Paramatma everywhere, but still Krishna's presence in deity is far more than his presence as Paramatma everywhere. Because Krishna's presence in the deity is in reciprocation with the surrender of his devotee. And even in the deity, Krishna's presence, like we can have the picture of a deity as the photo of a deity. But Krishna's presence in actual Archa Vigraha is more than the picture, because the Archa Vigraha is worshipped with more rules and regulations. But the photo we may not worship with so many rules and regulations. So therefore Krishna's presence in the deity, his presence is manifested more as a deity than as a picture. And even in the case of a deities, Krishna's presence in the temple deity is more than in the house deity, because usually, or in the sense, the temple deity devotees worship with more detailed rules and regulations, with more care and attention, Shodashopachara, etc. They do that. So Krishna's presence in the temple deity is more than even the house deity. And although Lord is present in the material world as a deity, but still the scriptures urge us to actually return to the spiritual world. Because in the spiritual world, there are innumerable devotees that are worshipping the Lord with selfless love. So in that sense, there is so in one sense, you may say, why Krishna, Uddhava is wanting to go to the spiritual world, because when Krishna is there everywhere, in the holy place Dwaraka Krishna is there, but still scriptures urge us there, because there is a gradation of Krishna's presence everywhere in the picture as a deity, etc. So so here Hridayananda Maharaj writes that although Lord manifests within the material world his various abodes such as Vrindavan, Dwaraka and Mathura, and although these are certainly non-different from their counterparts in the spiritual world, the most advanced devotees, overwhelmed with the desire to personally serve the Lord, are very eager to go to the Lord's original spiritual planet. So this verse shows the urgency of Uddhava. So he explains that because of the great eagerness of the devotees, the Lord appears as a deity. The six Goswamis were always intensely eager to serve Radha and Krishna. So similarly, Uddhava is urging the Lord to take him to his own abode, so that Uddhava's personal service to the Lord will not be interrupted even for a moment. And then the next paragraph is a beautiful paragraph. In this Uddhava Gita, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has also commented, and Vishwanath Chakravarti has commented. So many times Hridayananda Maharaj quotes the purports of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also. If you have seen that, there's one separate book called as Uddhava Gita, that is contains only the Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's commentary. So here Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says how Krishna is absolute truth in the beginning, middle and end. So many ordinary people, they say that Krishna was not able to protect the Yadu dynasty from the curse of the Brahmanas. Ordinary people say like that. But actually Uddhava's statement is actually correcting such unfortunate persons. So he says, it is Lord Krishna who awarded pious living entities birth in the Brahminical families. he only made them to take birth in the Brahminical families. And secondly, he only awarded them the potency to curse the Yadu dynasty. And thirdly, he only kept the curse intact, although he was capable of neutralizing it. So therefore, although ordinary people may say Krishna was not able to protect, therefore how can he be the Supreme Lord? But Acharyas are seeing from another angle. It is Krishna only who actually made them take birth. Krishna only gave them the potency to curse, and he only made the curse intact. So therefore, Krishna was the absolute truth in the beginning, middle, end, directly, indirectly, in the past, present and future. And he is completely transcendental to even the slightest touch of material illusion or importance. So the same thing can be seen from an ordinary person in a particular way, how Krishna is incapable. And the Acharyas, they see from a different way. So next verse. Tava vikriditam Krishna Nrinam parama mangalam Karna piyusham asadya Tyajantyanyaspriham jana.
My dear Krishna, your pastimes are supremely auspicious for mankind and are intoxicating beverage for the ears. Tasting such pastimes, people forget their desire for another things.
So here he is mentioning that when people hear your pastimes, they forget the desires for all other things. So in one sense, if we say the proof for taste for Krishna Katha or proof for taste in devotional service, you will see always the symptom of a person having the taste is that he is not attracted to something material. The 12th kind of this verse comes that Sarva Vedanta Saram hi Shri Bhagavata Ishyate Tad Rasamrita Triptasya Nanyatra Syat Ratikvachit. Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence of all the Vedanta, Sarva Vedanta Saram hi. And one who has developed a taste for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, he is not attracted to any other literature. And in the Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada explains in that the 5 most important items of devotional service. Says that one who actually enters the abode of Vrindavan or Mathura, he is not attracted to any other place, or he doesn't want to leave from that particular place. So in the Madhurya Kadambini, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, there are 2 primary symptoms of the stage of Ruchi. The first is that the impediments to chanting and hearing are no longer visible in the form of maybe hunger or fatigue. And second is that an insatiable appetite for even seemingly insignificant devotional practices awakens. These are 2 primary symptoms of taste. Insatiable appetite for even seemingly insignificant service, and impediments to devotional service in the form of hunger and fatigue are no longer visible. So now Uddhava says, Shayyasanatana Snana Kridashanadishu Katam Tvam Priyamatmanam Vayam Bhakta Tyajemahi.
My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Soul, and thus you are the most dear to us. We are your devotees, and how can we possibly reject you or live without you even for a moment? Whether we are lying down, sitting, walking, standing, bathing, enjoying recreation, eating or doing anything else, we are constantly engaged in your service.
So here Uddhava is saying that actually you are constantly engaged in your service. How can we actually leave you even for a moment? There's a similar verse which comes in 1st canto. Satsangan mukta dussango hatum notsahate buddha kirtyamanam yasho yasya sakrit akanya rochanam. Those who have understood the Supreme Lord in association with pure devotees have become freed from bad materialistic association they can never avoid hearing the glories of the Lord, even though they have heard them only once. Then how could when the Krishna was leaving the Pandavas to go to Dwaraka, so Sutta Goswami says, somebody who has heard the Krishna's glories even once, they can never avoid hearing the glories of the Lord. Then how can the Pandavas tolerate a separation? Because they had been intimately associated with Krishna by seeing him face to face, conversing with him, sleeping with him, sitting with him, dining with him. So how could they actually tolerate separation from Krishna? The similar Uddhava is also speaking here. Similar verse. So next verse. Tvayopabhukta sraggandau Vaso lankara charchita Uchishta bojino dasas Tava mayam jayemahi.
Simply by decorating ourselves with the garlands, fragrant oils, clothes and ornaments that you have already enjoyed, and by eating the remnants of your meals, we, your servants, will indeed conquer your illusionary energy.
So here, why Uddhava is speaking this verse is that Uddhava is saying that simply by taking your Mahaprasad in the form of your flower garlands or your clothes worn by you, ornaments worn by you, we can easily conquer the illusory energy. Tava mayam jayemahi. We can indeed very easily conquer. So Uddhava is speaking this verse in order to actually clarify to Krishna, I am not approaching you for achieving liberation, because I can easily achieve liberation simply by accepting your Mahagarlands. Rupa Goswami quotes this particular verse in the Nectar of Devotion. In one of the item of sadhana bhakti is accepting the flower garlands offered to the Lord. In that connection he quotes this verse. So next verse, 47th and 48th verse. So the theme of these three verses is 47, 46, 47, 48 is that 46 and 48, 46 and I will say 48, 49. These three verses, they speak how we easily conquer illusory energy, how we devotees can easily attain liberation simply by hearing and chanting or simply by accepting the flower garlands offered to you. And the 47th verse is a complete contrast. On the other hand, other people who do not take to your bhakti, who are yogis and jnanis, they have to struggle hard in order to attain liberation. So that is explained in the 47th verse. Vatavasanaya rishayah Shramana urdhva mantinaha Brahmakyam damate yanti Shanta sanyasino mala.
Naked sages who seriously endeavor in spiritual practice, who have raised their semen upward, who are peaceful and sinless members of the renounced order, attain the spiritual abode called Brahman.
So, Vata Vasana, like in Vedic scriptures, even to like they address somebody who does not wear any clothes in a more cultured manner by saying Vata Vasana, dressed by the air. Durvasa means like one who is dressed only by the four directions. So such naked sages who were strict observers of spiritual practice, that Shramana, and who observed celibacy strictly, Brahmakyam, they also attained the Brahmajyoti, Brahmakyam tamade yanti, Shanta sanyasino mala. So they attain the spiritual abode called Brahman, but they have to perform like very great penances. Shramana means they have to strictly perform all the spiritual practices. They have to strictly perform austerities. So that's why Prabhupada quotes this verse, Klesho adhikataras tesham, the 12th chapter there. The impersonalists, they have to actually struggle hard in order to attain impersonal liberation. But the devotees can easily attain liberation simply by performing devotional service. So next, you can read the translation, 48th verse.
Make it sages who seriously endeavor in spiritual practice, who have raised their semen.
This is the next one, 48, 49.
O greatness of mistakes, although we are conditioned soul, wandering on the path of fruitive work, we will certainly cross beyond the darkness of this material world simply by hearing your Lordship in the association of your devotees. Thus we are always remembering and glorifying the wonderful things you do and the wonderful things you say. We especially recall your enormous pastimes with your confidential conjugal devotees, and how you boldly smile and move about while engaged in such youthful pastimes. My dear Lord, your loving pastimes are bewildering, similar to the activities of ordinary people within this material world.
So in the previous purport, Hridayananda Maharaj writes the same point, that Uddhava is pointing out that unlike the impersonalists and meditators, the pure devotees very easily cross over the illusory energy because they are totally attached to the lotus feet of the Lord. The causeless mercy of Krishna is more valuable than millions and billions of years of one's own struggling and straining. One should try to get the Lord's mercy, and then everything will become very easy on the path of spiritual realization. And in this age, one can achieve the mercy of Krishna by constantly chanting his holy names. So now in the 48th and 49th verse, Uddhava is speaking about the same theme which he spoke in the 46th verse. How simply by hearing and chanting and remembering your pastimes, we conditioned souls wandering on the path of fruity work, Brahmanta Karma Vartmasu, and we can very easily, Tad Vartaya Tarishyamas, we can very easily cross this dense ocean of ignorance. And then the second 49th verse, he also explains what is the nature of Krishna's pastimes. Gati utsmitekshana kshveli yan riloka vidambanam. We ecstatically recall your amorous pastimes with your confidential conjugal devotees, and how you boldly smile and move about while engaged in such youthful pastimes. And Niloka Vidambanam, your pastimes are bewilderingly similar to the activities of ordinary people within this material world. Niloka Vidambanam. So if we see that Krishna's pastimes appear like human being, he performs human-like pastimes in order to attract the human beings. Because usually we get attracted to somebody whom we can relate with. Human form of life is especially meant for self-realization. So in order to attract the human beings to him, so Krishna performs human-like pastimes. But the other, the disadvantage is that somebody may say that ultimately his pastimes, his activities are also like any human being. So why should I accept him as God? So one may actually misunderstand that. So one may say, oh, let us go a little higher. So these human-like pastimes, they are something material. So let us go higher. So impersonalists, instead of getting attracted to human-like pastimes, they try to go higher, but actually they are not going deeper. So one is that to understand, to mistake a fake gold for real gold, that is illusion. Considering a fake gold for real gold is actually illusion. That means like to consider material sense gratification as happiness, that is actually illusion. And another is that even greater illusion is that to mistake the real gold for fake, that is even a greater illusion.
Wow.
So one that like one illusion is that we are attracted to something material sense gratification, but the way to come out of this illusion is that to get attracted to Krishna's pastimes. But when you consider Krishna's pastimes as illusion, then we go deeper into illusion. So that is the mistake of the. That's why in one sense the impersonalists who consider Krishna's pastimes to be illusory, they are in a worse situation than the karmis who are engaged in material sense gratification. Because they are considering the real solution to come out of the illusion to be illusion. So therefore they are in deeper illusion. So in the purport, Hridayan Maharaj talks about the naked yogis, which was mentioned in the previous verse, with the devotees engaged in hearing and chanting. And then he explains that Uddhava is begging the Lord for the mercy of his Sudarshan Chakra, whose effulgence is represented by the process of remembering and chanting the pastimes of the Lord. And one who absorbs himself in the incomparable bliss of thinking of the Lord's abode easily becomes free from all lamentation, illusion and fear. Can you read that translation, last verse?
Sukadeva Goswami said, O King Parikshit, thus address the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the son of Devaki, began to reply confidently to his dear unallied servant Uddhava.
So we'll go to the next chapter. So now Krishna starts speaking. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yad Atama Mahabhaga Tachikirshitameva me Brahma Bhavo Lokapala Swarvasam me Bikankshinaha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O greatly fortunate Uddhava, who has accurately revealed my desire to withdraw the Yadu dynasty from the earth and return to my own abode in Vaikuntha. Thus Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva and all other planetary rulers are now praying for me to resume my residence in Vaikuntha.
So here Krishna is actually acknowledging Uddhava that you have actually understood my desire to return to the spiritual world. And all the demigods are actually praying for me to actually come to their resume my residence in Vaikuntha. So Hridayan Maharaj talks in the purport about the residence of Vishnu and other demigods. So Vishnu is sometimes counted among the demigods, but Vishnu is actually beyond this material world. It's like in that in the Prithu Maharaj section, when it's described that after Prithu Maharaj, at one point Lord Vishnu, he puts his hand on the shoulder of Garuda and he's stumbling to get, he was falling down, so therefore in order to get a balance he actually puts his hand on the shoulder of Garuda. So there Prabhupada writes that like when Prithu Maharaj offered beautiful prayers, by those prayers Lord became so captivated that usually when the demigods come to this world, they would not touch their feet to the ground. And Vishnu is not a demigod, but because he is playing the role of a demigod in charge of the maintenance. So he would also follow the normal behavior of the demigods by not touching his foot to the ground. But by seeing the beautiful prayers of the Prithu Maharaj, he actually he got so captivated, he actually touched his feet to the ground. Because he was not used to that, he stumbled, so therefore he actually put his hand on the Garuda shoulder. So Prabhupada says in the connection also that Vishnu is not one of the demigods, but he follows normally the behavior of the demigods. So here he says that although Vishnu is sometimes counted among the demigods, his abode is in Vaikuntha, the spiritual sky. And the next paragraph he talks about, he gives a comparison of Vishnu with the demigods. The demigods are under the influence of the potency of Maya, but Vishnu is always the supreme controller of Maya. And then he said ultimately Krishna is the source of even Vishnu. Next verse. Maya nishpaditam hyatra deva karyam asheshatah yadartam avatirnoham amshena brahmanartitah.
Answering the prayer of Lord
Can go to the office and get my bottle of water.
along with my plenary portion, Lord Baldev and perform various activities on behalf of the demigods. I have now completed my mission here.
So Krishna is saying that I have completed my mission fully. Avatirnoham amshena asheshatah means without anything remaining, I have completely fulfilled the mission of the demigods. Deva karyam. Whatever the demigods requested, I have perfectly executed all the requests completely. Maya nishpaditam. And I had appeared along with Balram and I completely fulfilled the mission. So if you see, like many times the atheistic people, they say that, oh, that where is your God? We can't see the God here. But actually, the fact that we are not able to see the God, that shows actually the perfect management of Krishna. It is said, the perfect manager is one that who manages in such a way that nobody comes to know that who is the manager. Means like, usually those are not experienced in managing, like somebody is in anxiety or this one, they understand, okay, he is the manager. Usually is like, but perfect management is such that nobody comes to know that who is actually managing. Like sometime in our temple there was previously there are 4 temple presidents, and every 3 months there one temple president, another temple president would come, and then the turn would change. But nobody would know who is actually the temple president, because everything, the systems are set up and it's going on nicely in the sense. So Krishna, usually we are not able to, many times we are not able to see the Supreme Lord, because he is managing the universe so nicely that he has appointed so many demigods that they are actually managing so perfectly that he remains invisible. So that shows actually the supreme management of Krishna. But sometimes when there is an emergency, Krishna personally comes. So like one class I was hearing that in the time of crisis, those who are objects of prayer, they become the subjects of prayer. The demigods are usually objects of prayer by the people of this world. But at the time of crisis, those objects of prayer, they become the subject of prayer and they pray to the Supreme Lord. Just like Hiranyakashipu, he offered such beautiful prayers to Lord Brahma. He was the object of prayer of Hiranyakashipu. And later he created so much of atrocities, he became the subject of prayer. He offered praise to Narsingadev. So, and one may get a question. Actually, Krishna is mentioning here, Maya Nishpaditam. I have completely accomplished the request of the demigods. One may say that if Krishna has perfectly accomplished everything, because he has removed the burden of the earth, of the demoniac population, but now after that Kali Yuga is going to start. Kali Yuga means the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. But if you read the purport in the 30th chapter, so Krishna performed this Mausha Leela in order to increase adharma so that the Kali Yuga can begin. People would get bewildered and then they would think him to be an ordinary person so that the Kali Yuga can begin. One may say, if Krishna has appeared this world in order to remove the in order to establish religion, and in order to remove the demonic population, then after why he performed this Mausha Leela in such a way so that Kali Yuga can begin, that means like more irreligion can increase. So the understanding is that just like there is disorder, when there is disorder or when there is disturbance in the universal order, Krishna appears to correct that disturbance. When there is disturbance in the universal order which is created by the demons, Krishna appears to actually correct that disturbance created by the demons. But coming of Kali Yuga, this is a Kali Yuga is a disorder, but this is the universal order. This disorder is actually created by Krishna for the actually so that the conditioned souls who are rebellious, they get more miseries, they get more problems. So when there is a disturbance in the universal system, Krishna appears to correct that disturbance. This disturbance was created by the demonic population, so Krishna appeared to correct. But coming of Kali Yuga, that itself is the universal order. The coming of the 4 yuga, that itself is the universal order. So because that is the normal course of the ages should degrade. So therefore Krishna performed this Mausha Leela so that Kali Yuga can begin. Irreligion will increase. And that is for the facilitate the conditioned souls who are having that sinful karma so that they can actually take birth in Kali Yuga. And then gradually things will improve like that. Next verse. Kulam Vaishapa Nirdagdam Nangshyat Anyonya Vigrahat Samudra Saptamehyena Purim Cha Plava Yishyati.
Now, due to the Brahmanas' curse, the Yadu dynasty will certainly perish by fighting among themselves. And on the 7th day from today, the ocean will rise up and under this city of God.
So Krishna is confirming that that Yadu dynasty will actually fight among themselves, and the ocean will actually rise up and inundate the city of Dwaraka. So again it is explained that Yadu dynasty and Dwaraka, they are not actually destroyed by Krishna, but they were merely removed from the vision of the world through the curse of the Brahmanas. Nevertheless, all external approaches to this transcendental city, Dwaraka, were covered by the ocean, and thus the Lord's abode remains inaccessible to foolish persons in Kali Yuga, as will be described later in this canto. Next verse. Yarhyevayam maya tyakto lokoyam nashta mangalaha bhavishyat achirat sadho kalinapi nirakritah.
O saintly Uddhav, in the near future I will abandon this earth. Then, being overwhelmed by the age of Kali, the earth will be bereft of all beauty.
So here in this verse he is telling about his own disappearance in the near future and the starting of Kali Yuga. So Hridayananda Maharaj writes, the result of not recognizing the supreme position of Krishna is actually mental concoction. When a person does not recognize the supreme position of Krishna, then such a person gets trapped in mental concoction or mental speculation. Such people remain totally in ignorance about the most fundamental issues of human life, namely who am I, where have I come from, where am I going, what is my goal, and what is God. And then he says that who are the people who take birth in Kali Yuga? When the eternal soul is bereft of the constitutional pleasure that comes from loving service to the Lord, he is overwhelmed and bewildered by material nature, and he helplessly chases after material sense gratification, thinking that one material object is good and another bad. Thus he derives no peace or pleasure, is in constant anxiety, and is repeatedly thrashed by the cruel laws of nature in the form of birth, death, old age and disease. And Kali Yuga is the epitome of misfortune, and Krishna will say in the next verse, he will tell to Uddhava that you must actually avoid Kali Yuga, you must not remain in Kali Yuga. And Hridayan Maharaj says, this instruction of Krishna to Uddhava, this is instruction for all of us also, that we should not remain in Kali Yuga. Those of us who have already taken birth in Kali Yuga should also heed this advice of Krishna and immediately take all necessary steps to go back to the Lord's eternal abode for a blissful life. Next verse. Na vastavyam tvayaiveha maya tyakte mahitale jano abhadra ruchir badra bhavishyati kalau yuge.
My dear Uddhava, you should not remain here on the earth. Once I have abandoned this world. My dear devotee, you are sinless. But in Kali Yuga, the people will be addicted to all types of sinful activities. Therefore, do not stay here.
So he is saying the nature of Kali Yuga is that the nature of Kali Yuga people is they are abhadra ruchi. Abhadra ruchi means they are addicted to sinful activities. So therefore, na vastavyam, you should not remain in Kali Yuga any longer. Maya tyakte mahitale. Maya tyakte mahitale. After I leave from this world, you should not remain here on the earth. So Hridayan Maharaj writes, actually one should not remain anywhere in the material world during any age. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord advises all living entities that they should never remain anywhere within the material world during any age. Therefore, every living being should take advantage of the pressures of Kali Yuga to understand the overall useless nature of the material world and surrender himself at the lotus feet of Krishna. So he's extending that. It's not that, oh, maybe in Satya Yuga we can live in maybe heavenly planet or something like that. So just Kali Yuga is actually, one should understand the overall useless nature of the material world. Further, Kali Yuga is more helpful because in other yugas maybe miseries may not be so prominent. So we should, when we read the purports, we should try to collect those gems, certain sentences, certain points which are actually gems, that we should try to collect that and maybe mark that when we are reading. Tvam tu sarvam parityajya sneham svajana bandhushu maya veshya manas samyak samadrak vicharasvagam.
Now you should completely give up all attachment to your personal friends and relatives and fix your mind on me. Thus, being always conscious of me, you should observe all things with crystal vision and wander throughout the earth.
So I will describe this purport and then I will end. So here what Krishna is saying is that you should give up all the material attachment, tvam tu sarvam parityajya, material attachment towards svajana bandhushu, personal friends and relatives. And then what you should do? Mayi aveshya, you should fix your mind upon me. And then being conscious of me, you should have equal vision, samadrik. And with that equal vision, vicharasvagam, you should wander, you may wander throughout the earth. So this is the instruction which Krishna is giving to Uddhava here. So in this particular verse, Vishwanath Chakravarti gives the thoughts of Krishna when Krishna is speaking this verse to Uddhava. So the Lord was thinking that when I was present in this world, I gave mercy to so many people. I went to Sutala Loka and gave mercy to Bali Maharaj. It is described that when did Krishna go to Sutala Loka? When, in order to, like, when Devaki, her 6 sons were actually killed by Kamsa. So those 6 sons were actually in the planet of Sutala Loka. So Krishna descended to the Sutala Loka planet in order to get back those sons. So at that time Krishna gave mercy to Bali Maharaj. And Krishna went to heavenly planets in order to give mercy to the residents of heavenly planets. After killing Baumasur, he went to hand over the earrings of Aditi. And Krishna went to places like Mithila and gave his association to Bahulashwan Shrutadev. And Krishna gave his association to the Mathura Vasis, Vrindavan Vasis and Dwarka Vasis. And Krishna was feeling that I also gave my association to the Mahavishnu and his associates. So in this way I gave mercy to so many people, I gave my personal association to so many people, but the Naranarayan Rishi and the other sages who are great Paramahamsas living in Badrikashram, they were very enthusiastic to see me, but I could never give my association to them. Because I was busy, engaged in so many activities going and coming from different places, I could never go to Badrikashram and give my association to them. But now the time for my disappearance that has come, 125 years have passed, so I have to go back to the spiritual world. Now, but because they are very eager, so you go there because you are non-different from me and you are above the 3 modes of material nature, and you are because you are non-different from me, you go to them and I will impart transcendental knowledge unto you. You share that same transcendental knowledge to the sages of Badrikashram, and by hearing transcendental knowledge from you, they will get the experience the same personal association of me. So with that intention, Krishna is speaking to Uddhava. So Hridayan Maharaj says that in this way Uddhava can teach them the method of rendering loving devotional service to my lotus feet. Such loving devotional service rendered to me is the most valuable treasure, and by hearing such knowledge, the desires of the great sages will be completely fulfilled. So then he writes beautiful in the 509th page purport. Like sometimes a pure devotee, because of being busily engaged in devotional service, they may appear to forget Krishna. But they appear to forget Krishna, those devotees will always be protected by Krishna. So like sometimes a devotee may die in an accident or something like that. But because they have rendered devotional service, that Krishna will never forget them. Even if such a devotee should suddenly give up his life while neglecting to fix his mind intensely on me, such a devotee's loving feelings are so powerful that they afford him all protection. Even if there is a temporary moment of forgetfulness, such devotion will bring the devotee to my lotus feet, which are beyond the vision of ordinary. So then he writes a beautiful paragraph. Hridayan Maharaj brings the same point to the level of ISKCON devotees in the 510th page. He says that many devotees, they may be busy distributing Prabhupada's books to show compassion to other people. But such devotees, because of doing like heavy labor, they are in order to execute the tremendous task of spreading Krishna consciousness, the devotees are tirelessly laboring day and night. Although superficially such busy devotees may occasionally not think directly of the lotus feet of Krishna, such loving devotion will undoubtedly take them back to Krishna's lotus feet, and being pleased by their service, the Lord himself will again arouse their unflinching meditation upon his personal form. So he is explaining this point there. And then finally he says that he explains the word samadrik, how one should have equal vision. Means like one should see everything as part and parcel of Krishna. This is called as Krishna Sambandha, or constitutional relationship with Krishna. Just like before marriage, a boy and girl, they may have certain number of relatives. But just after marriage, because of the connection with that one person, the number of relatives increase from, they almost get doubled. So similarly, because of connection with Krishna, a person actually establishes connection with all the living entities. So that is called as Krishna Sambandha. So we will stop here. If anybody has any questions or comments,
Love for Krishna and separation, it appears to be the greatest, because that's where you are really simply no other options, no other to go. For trying for loving Krishna, it appears that sometimes you may pain to forget, you may forget him also.
Yeah, it's a high concept.
Separation, you have no other.
For us, like, we have to perform sadhana bhakti, no? So it is just, love for Krishna is highest, but we are in the stage of, we are struggling with anartha nivritti, and we have to perform sadhana bhakti, and so we gradually come to the stage.
When the devotees are performing their seva, even they forget Krishna. How do you explain that?
In the sense, like somebody may be, like it may appear that they are direct, somebody is busy in, say, management, or somebody is busy in, busily engaged in services which may involve some money or different objects. It might have appeared to have forgotten.
Like the form mentioned earlier, forgetting the form of the Lord, not able to fix.
But that is apparent forget.
Yeah. It may appear that he is. Yeah, but in the sense, because he is fixed in the service of the Lord, Krishna never forgets him. Hence. Yeah.
Like regarding yatras you were mentioning, like the associates we mentioned, like Sarup Damodar Goswami and all these, they never went to Vrindavan. But they were always with Mahaprabhu. So they never must have felt the need of. But if we have some propensity before Krishna consciousness to like
in the sense,
for outings.
Yeah, that is there. In the initially, it's not that like no, we don't condemn the people. At least instead of going to other places, they are coming to Yatra. But I'm saying for the more serious devotees, I'm saying initially when we come to Krishna consciousness, we definitely we encourage people, at least in the form of like you come for a good outing, we take them, we give other experience, swimming and so many other things, because people are not only interested, they're just coming to holy place just for Krishna or Harikatha or something. They want to go out, they want to have a travel somewhere, etc. So initially we come with that, that's all right. But I'm talking about from after some time spending years in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes we may go on yatra just to avoid the services, or not go to yatra to avoid the services. But it could be either way. So therefore, the main from that point of view, I was saying, because like some time back, going through was also saying that nowadays there are so many yatras. Like previously, people would go to Vrindavan at least once in a year or something. Now 4 to 5 times they go out to Vrindavan. Because if there's a particular service, it is all right. But the point is that one should go to a pilgrimage or not go to the pilgrimage just to avoid the service. Because when a person is engaged in the service, that itself is ultimate perfection. One does not have to separately go, leave that service and go to the holy place. That's it. What's your point, Devdatta?
I have 2 comments and one question. One comment is about this. Chetan Chandu had one question that during services we are not prayerful. So how to be prayerful during the service? We asked Anonymous Prabhu. And Anonymous Prabhu said that at least pray before the service and after the service. During the service you may not remember. And regarding Kali Yuga, Bhakti Maharaj said that by accepting the movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very enthusiastically, we should practice in such a way that we will always stay in Kali Yuga and we will create Satya Yuga, even in the 1 square feet. At least do that. If every devotee does that, then there will be Satya Yuga and mission of Mahaprabhu is complete.
Oh, he writes in a book, huh?
I heard his lecture.
Okay.
And the question is, why Lord is asking them to take bath and purify themselves to counteract the curse. But still the curse comes. Even after Lord says that you take bath, and to counter, but the curse still comes. What is the purpose?
Yeah, so Lord is actually once externally telling that we should. His ultimate purpose is he wants the Yadu dynasty to disappear from this world, and so he wants to, and he just telling externally that we in order to avoid the curse we should go to Prabhashetra. He's telling that externally, but internally that he wants the dynasty to get annihilated by the curse of the Brahmanas. So that's why he's taking them away.
So is it that just to show people that even if the curse is coming, we should be at least perform some action to purify our consciousness so that we are able to face that?
Yes, many times when we perform some sinful activity or offense, even if we atone, even if we beg forgiveness, the reaction may still come. The physical reaction may still come. But we beg forgiveness or we perform atonement mainly to remove that sinful propensity by which we committed that offense.
Like Parikshit Maharaj also, he got the curse, but his consciousness was like externally, he Takshaka touched his body, but it is mentioned that he already left for the spiritual world.
So the reaction may still come, but the worst reaction of the sin or an offense is that propensity to do that again. That is the worst reaction. So that reaction is actually gone when a person sincerely repents from the heart. But external reaction may still come, may not come. That is a doesn't matter.